First, we are going to be talking about HIIT training. So HIIT stands for high intensity interval training, and it is going to allow you to get an extremely strong stimulus. And this is going to turn on genes that are going to extend your life. It's going to enhance your metabolism. You are going to burn muscle, and it's going to increase your cardiorespiratory fitness. Now, cardiorespiratory fitness, or CRF, is defined by the ability of your heart and your lungs and muscles to supply oxygen to your body. And this is something that you definitely want. You know, people with heart disease and diabetes, they actually lose this ability to supply oxygen to parts of their bodies. And unfortunately, this is why they end up needing things like amputations. And, you know, obviously this is an extreme example, but we all want to avoid that. And, you know, this is something that we can control. So in fact, there's this recent study that I posted on my Facebook page, and they showed that people with the highest levels of their CRF, their cardiorespiratory fitness, they had an 80% reduction in all-cause mortality, meaning that they had an 80% decrease in their risk of dying from anything. And what's awesome is that HIIT is one of the best ways that you can increase this cardiorespiratory fitness. Now, HIIT is also going to help you to improve body composition, which, you know, who doesn't want to look good naked? It's going to help you decrease your stress levels, which is super important in today's environment. And it's going to do this thing called, it's going to activate your mitochondrial biogenesis. And basically this means it's going to help you to grow more mitochondria. And I'm sure that a lot of you guys have heard about mitochondria. As you know, they're the powerhouse of the cell, but what does that actually mean? So mitochondria are these little things that are inside all of our cells, and they are responsible for converting all of the food that you eat, so the carbs, the fats, the protein, and they turn that into the energy that you use to do all of the amazing things that you do. You know, every time you blink, every time you walk, jump, create, imagine, do a good deed, all of that is done through the energy that's created in your mitochondria. And that's why they're called the powerhouse of the cell. But you really, what you really want is you want to have, and you have the power to grow more of these mitochondria through things like HIIT training. And, who doesn't want to have more energy? If you have more mitochondria, you're going to have more energy. It really is just as simple as that. And you want to do everything that you can to keep your mitochondria happy and plentiful if you want to be giving your best to the world. Now, who doesn't want to have more energy? If you do, I want you to give me a big yes in the chat box. Awesome. Yeah, everyone wants more energy. So how does HIIT actually do all of this? Now, the whole point of this is that what you're doing is you're putting your body in a situation where you're doing more than normal. And this is going to get your body to respond. So what you're doing is you're stressing the system, and then your body responds by upregulating the genes that are going to better allow you to deal with stress in the future. And if you do this over and over again, you're actually going to become a better version of yourself by putting yourself in these high intensity situations. And this is done through a process called hormesis. So hormesis is the process where an organism, aka you, will respond to the stress in the environment, and it's going to respond by making it more able to deal with that stress in the future. And this is just the idea that, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. This is the biological term for that. And, right now we're talking about HIIT training, but you can apply this to lots of aspects of your life. Anytime you put yourself in a situation where you're pushing yourself to do something new or something more than you would normally do, you are going to activate those genes, and it's going to make you better able to deal with that in the future. And you're actually going to become a better person because of it. Now, this isn't anything new, right? I'm sure a lot of you guys know that, when bodybuilders spend a lot of time at the gym and they pick up heavier and heavier weights, their body is going to respond by building more muscle. But what makes HIIT unique is that you can get all of these effects in a very, very short amount of time. In fact, you can get this way less time than you would traditionally spend exercising. Now, how short can you do this? This is amazing. So this is one of the studies that I quoted. I actually wrote like a 15-page research paper on HIIT training when I was in my graduate program. That was part of my graduate project. And this was one of the studies that I quoted in there. And as little as 3 HIIT sessions per week, and it involved less than 10 minutes of intense exercise for each session. That can allow you to, it can improve that cardiorespiratory fitness. It can improve your muscle oxidative capacity, your exercise tolerance, and it can decrease a bunch of different markers of disease risk. And that's only after a few weeks. And this is the most amazing part, is that this is in both healthy people and people that had cardiometabolic disorders. So people that already had heart disease and diabetes, even in those people, HIIT training, which for just a couple weeks, 3 times a week, has been shown to decrease all of these markers of disease risk and improve that cardiorespiratory fitness. And what that means is that you can get all of these benefits in less than 30 minutes per week, which is amazing. And another study actually compared HIIT training to what's called moderate intensity continuous training, or MICT. And imagine that's just, going at a steady pace. So imagine someone that goes on the treadmill and they are walking, at a steady pace for an hour. That's moderate intensity continuous training. Now, they compared the two groups, and while at the end of the study, they had a similar change in body composition, the people that did the HIIT group required 40% less training time commitment. And, what would you do with an extra 40% more time? I know I would love to be able to do that. Unfortunately, I'm already implementing HIIT, so it's a little more difficult. But if you're not, this can give you 40% more time. That's amazing. But, some of you may be wondering, is HIIT safe? And HIIT has been shown to be not only safe, but effective for people that have already had heart attacks and have heart failure because of it. They've tested it in people over 85 and people that are completely sedentary and have no exercise experience. And it was proven to be safe and effective for all of them. Now, I do want to note, I'm not your personal physician, and you should always consult your doctor before starting something if you have a specific medical condition. Now, I have a question for you guys. I want to know how much time you spend doing actual intense exercise per week. So this isn't, how much time do you spend walking on the treadmill? This is how much time do you spend actually pushing your body to that higher intensity? Is it 10 to 30 minutes? Do you spend over an hour? How much are you actually doing it? Or are you not currently exercising or getting to that high intensity? And just put the number in the chat box just so I can get a better idea. And again, so I can help better tailor to this to you guys in the future. Awesome. All right, so we got some people, a couple people aren't exercising, but we got a couple people that are pushing it. Awesome. Now, you guys understand all of these benefits. So HIIT does so many amazing things, but now I'm going to go over how you actually implement this in your life. Now, step 1 is you need to be able to break up these different intervals into separate times. So one of these is going to be for high intensity, and one of them is going to be for the lower intensity. And this is super important. This is not just high intensity training. It's high intensity interval training. And you really need those intervals. You need the highs and the lows. And that's how you're going to really, enhance that the hormesis effect and kick that into overdrive. So you need to be able to stress the system and then recover, and then stress the system again and then recover. And when you follow this protocol, you are going to see huge results very quickly. Now, to do this, you need a timer. And the one that I use, it's called Interval Timer HIIT Workouts. That's what it's called on the App Store. So if you have Apple products, and it's called Interval Timer HIIT Training if you have Android. And this is just what I have used personally. It works really well. They make it really, really easy to set the different intervals and pick the different times. And it's a free app. So that's what I would recommend using. There are other ones. If you have one that you're already using, awesome, keep doing that. But this is one for those of you that haven't used this or don't have a timer yet. I would really recommend getting this one. Now, second, you need to pick what type of exercise it is that you want to do. I mean, you can run, walk, swim, bike, do elliptical machines, or like I do full body calisthenics lots of times. You can do this with weights, without weights. It doesn't matter what modality you use. What matters is that you pick something that you actually like and something that you are going to continue to do into the future. That's what's really most important. Now, once you have your timer and you've picked what type of modality you're going to do, what you need to do is you need to set the interval times and you need to set the number of rounds. And the goal of this is to really be pushing yourself to that high intensity, to that 80, 90% max heart rate. And you don't need to be wearing a heart rate monitor and actually know what your max heart rate is, but you should really be pushing yourself hard and really breathing hard and sweating. That's high intensity. And I don't want you to really like overthink this. If you're running sprints, what you want to do is you want to be able to push yourself to that high intensity. And then you need to give yourself enough time to recover so that you can be able to push yourself again to that high intensity in the next round. So for example, when I do this, I do a full body circuit and I'll do 1 minute of high intensity and then 30 seconds at the low intensity. But I've worked up to this and it changes depending on what modality that I'm doing. So if I'm running sprints, I obviously don't sprint for a minute and then rest for 30 seconds, then sprint for a minute. It's more like the inverse. It's more like I sprint for 30 seconds and I rest for a minute or 2 minutes and then sprint for 30 seconds and rest for a minute or 2 minutes. And this is going to change depending on your personal level of fitness. Now, here's some other options that you can do. So start with, depending on what modality you're doing, you can start with do 30 seconds at high intensity, a minute at low intensity. Now, is that too hard for you? Yes or no? If it's too hard, then try and increase that lower intensity interval. So you can do 30 seconds of high, 2 minutes of low. If that's too easy for you, then try a minute at high intensity and a minute at low intensity. And if that's still too easy, then you can try like a minute at the high intensity and 30 seconds at the low intensity. And you really are just going to have to play around and figure out exactly where it is. How hard can you push yourself? How long can you push yourself at that, 80, 90% max heart rate? And, this is something important. It's not that you start the high intensity interval at 80 and 90% and then, you do that for 10 seconds and then for the rest of the 30 seconds, you're just kind of like barely alive. That's not the point. But you want to be able to really push yourself that entire interval. And you're just going to need to figure out what that is. And then figure out how long of the low intensity interval that you need in order to recover enough so that you can really push yourself again that next round and do that for multiple rounds. Now, I think you guys get the idea. So picking the number of rounds, this is going to depend on what modality it is that you're doing and how much time that you have. You want to do at least 10 minutes of total interval training. So that's both the high intensity and the low intensity. So it needs to be at least 10 minutes in order to really get the effects that they've shown in the scientific studies. And if you have more time than that, then do more time than that. Or if you're at more fit and you're able to do more, then you can do more time than that. But you want to make sure that you're doing at least 10 minutes total of the interval training. And the next, we're going to talk about the fourth step. So this is, again, really important. Now, we're talking about really pushing yourself to that high intensity interval. And you're going to be pushing yourself, 80, 90% max heart rate. And you guys cannot be doing that unless you have sufficiently warmed your body up. You need to have brought your body through full range of motion, have broken a sweat. You can do things like simple things like jumping jacks, run in place, do like mountain climbers or lunges. Or what I would really recommend doing is just Google what's called a dynamic warm-up routine. And there's tons of these online. Most of them are really good. And you want to do this for at least 5 to 10 minutes. Bring your body through that full range of motion. Get yourself warmed up, ready to go. That way you can really do this interval training. And, I don't want anyone getting hurt out there. The point of this is to be able to implement this in your busy life for the long haul. We're all in this. We're going to be living probably very long lives, most of us, the way that modern medicine is going right now. And you want to be able to do these things into the future. And this is something that you can enhance your life with. This is something to make you better able to deal with those stresses. And I don't want anyone getting hurt out there. So make sure you warm up. And at the same time, after you do the intervals, I want to make sure that you guys cool your body down. I don't want you to be pushing yourself to that high intensity and then just go hop in the car and run home. You really need to give your muscles some time to calm down, relax, do some things like some static stretching or just simple movements like walking or leg swings, do some arm circles. Or if you really want to get an awesome effect, what you can do is you can combine HIIT training and do a quick yoga session afterwards. So you can do 5 to 10 minute yoga. You can find this online easily and really bring yourself through that full range of motion and, really help your body relax at the end so that your muscles don't lock up. Now, form is the key to HIIT training. Always, always, always pick form over speed. I promise you, you do not need to go super fast or use really heavy weights in order to get your heart rate, through the roof. You can implement these things if you just focus on having really good form with each of these movements, and you focus on the different muscles, and I promise you will get to that high intensity phase without putting yourself into a compromising position. Again, I want you to be able to implement these things for years to come without getting any injuries. Now, putting all of this together, this is something that I sent out to all of you guys that registered. So this is one of the infographics that I put in my book, and it kind of walks you through exactly what it is that you can do for all of this HIIT training. So step one is that you're going to start with that dynamic warm-up routine that I was talking about before. And the total amount of time, it needs to be about 5 to 10 minutes. And your goal is to really warm your muscles up, get a sweat, bring your body through that full range of motion, and you can do lots of different exercises. Once you've done that warm-up, you want to move on to the interval training. And again, you can do this as a single exercise or as more of like a circuit. So, and this is just dependent on what it is that you personally like to do. You want to be doing something that you actually enjoy and something that you can easily implement. So, don't pick one or the other just because you think it's better. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you're actually doing it and you're pushing yourself to that high intensity phase. So depending on which one you do, if you do the circuit, you can do a similar one to like the one I had below. Or if you're just doing a single exercise, pick the durations. You want to do at least 10 minutes. Then at the end, once you've done all the intervals, you want to finish with a cool down. And again, this needs to be about 5 to 10 minutes. Your goal is to just bring your heart rate down and relax while keeping your body moving forward. And you can just walk or stretch or do yoga. And, this is all going to depend on your current level of fitness. And some of these things, might not be appropriate for you. So obviously be smart about this. Again, I don't want anyone getting hurt out there, but this is a very extremely powerful tool that you guys can have. And I am going to, so for all of the people that showed up live today, you are going to be getting these 3 bonus examples that I made for you guys, and it's going to have the warm up, the routine, and the cool down. So this first example is more of a easy or beginner level, and you can do this with or without weights. I have a warm up in here for you. I have the 10-minute HIIT workout, so it's going to include jumping jacks, air squats, push-ups. You can do tricep dips. You can easily do that with a chair, and butt kicks, reverse lunges, and Superman. So this is something that you could do no matter where you're at. You don't need to have a gym. You don't need to have access to equipment. And then once you're done with the workout, make sure you do a cool down and bring your heart rate down. Now, this next example is going to be more advanced. So this is more similar to what I personally do. And, when I do this, I use a 35-pound dumbbell. You can use that or, any kind of dumbbell or kettlebell or nothing. It's really up to you. And again, I broke down the warm up for you. This HIIT interval training is about 12 minutes. So you got a couple more rounds in there. And I did a lot more single leg stuff just because that's something that I personally enjoy. Again, if you wanted to use different exercises, something that more fits you, obviously go ahead for that. The point is that you do something that you like and you really get yourself to that high intensity phase. And the third example, now this is more if you're doing a sprint workout or if you are on an elliptical machine. And again, I wrote the warm up for you. And so when you're doing a single exercise, you could also apply this to biking or swimming. What you do is you go at that high intensity interval, and you're going to do that for about 30 seconds. And then you're going to walk for a minute or go slow for a minute. So if you're biking, you would bike really, really fast for 30 seconds and then go slower for a minute, and then go really, really fast for 30 seconds, slow for a minute. And you're going to repeat that about 7 times in order to get that 10-minute window. And again, you can do longer if you want, but you want to really try and make sure that you get at least that 10 minutes. That's what's been shown to give you the benefits. And then obviously cool down at the end. Now, that's all well and good. great if you have access to this stuff. But what about when you're traveling? The holiday season is coming up. A lot of us are going to be traveling. And, that's really what makes HIIT so awesome, is that no matter how busy you are, if you have equipment or no equipment, you can still implement this. So if you're in a hotel, lots of times they're going to have a gym there. So easily you can go down to the gym and use that stuff. They usually have an elliptical machine or a treadmill, and those are really, really easy to do that interval training, like the last example that I showed you. Now, if you don't have a gym, you can either go outside and run sprints. That's obviously a possibility. But some of you live in, not all of you live in Florida like I do, so you can't go outside, especially in the wintertime. So what you can do is, even if you're in a hotel room, or if you're at your parents' place or your grandparents' place, you can easily do a full body circuit like that first example that I showed, where you're doing things like tricep dips on a chair, jumping jacks, push-ups. You can easily, if you have that timer on your phone, you can get your body warmed up 5 to 10 minutes, do that HIIT training, do the first example that I showed you guys. That's going to take you 10 minutes, and then do a cool down and you're done. And you can even do that like during the holiday season, because, even if, say it's like getting close and you guys are going to all go out and eat, all you need is 30 minutes. And then, just hop in the shower real quick and wash off, and you're good to go. So, this makes it so much easier. You don't need to drive to the gym and then, get all your stuff ready, put your stuff in a locker, and then start to work out, stay there for an hour. I mean, sometimes that can take hours. And, most people spend longer than 30 minutes just driving to the gym and back. So this is really something that you can use no matter where you're at, no matter what it is you're doing, and especially this holiday season. And I don't want you to focus on being perfect. You just need to focus on improvement. I understand that things happen. You guys all have lives. You want to go out with your friends, but this is something that you can implement. You can easily incorporate, even if you had as little as 20 minutes. If you just did a 5-minute warm-up, 5-minute cool down, and 10 minutes of the intervals, that's easily something that you can incorporate into your day-to-day life. And when you miss days, no big deal. This isn't something that you need to do every day. HIIT training, all you need to do is about 3 times a week, 30 minutes each time, and you would keep yourself in your heart and your lungs, and that ability to push oxygen through your lungs. You can keep that working good enough so that you can really, decrease your risk of chances of getting a lot of these, diseases or diseases of the modern world. You can really help to lower your risk of getting a lot of those things. And when you're able to do that, celebrate your win and feel good that you are doing something that is going to benefit you later on. Now, just do it. You need to get out there, start doing HIIT, start building more of those mitochondria, giving you more energy so that you can accomplish your goals. And best part, you can look good doing it.